So, I'm trying to describe this thing that I realized this morning. I was out at this bar last night for a tech event and I met this girl and I asked her if she was single and if she wanted to go on a date. And she said, yes, she was single, but to the date, she said, well, not without more effort. And I've had this response from several different women in the past where we meet and I think there's an obvious mutual attraction, but when I ask them if they want to go on a date, they say something along the lines of, you got to show more effort, man. And I was always really confused by this. I was like, what the fuck? What is the more effort? Because on the dating apps, there isn't more effort. You just like, if you like each other, which to be clear, all these women I think did like me. They all thought I was attractive and liked talking with me. I was talking with them for usually 3 to 5 minutes before I asked them out. And I'm just like, dude, if this was a dating app, this already would have been 10 times as much social proof that you need to go on a date. What's the problem? What is it? What is the more that they're asking for? And then I was thinking about it this morning because I was like, they don't want to be involved in the process. They want to be swept off their feet. They don't want to. And my thought in dating was that I'm searching for an equal. I want to fall in love. I want someone who can challenge me. And I imagine that if I find someone who can challenge me, they're going to be somebody who has their own agency and wants to keep their own agency. They're not going to want. So essentially, what I'm realizing is that I think these women are asking to be led. They don't want to be a part of the process. They want to be swept off their feet. By that, I'm saying that they literally want someone to come along and impose enough charisma on them so that they aren't thinking about whether or not they want to be involved with you. They just want to be swept off their feet, completely out of sight, out of mind. They don't want to think about it. And I was just like, what the fuck is that? You seriously want to be absent from the process of picking your mate. You want your mate to pick you. And so it's like, it's weird because it's like, I think they have essentially no concept of being in a mutual relationship. They don't want to be in a mutual relationship of equals. They want to be a follower. They want to follow someone who is leading them in a relationship, and they don't want to think about it. They want to be completely hands off, just being led around. And that's the kind of thing that they're looking for. And that's weird to me. And then after a while of thinking about it, I was like, damn it. I think, okay, so here's the thing. My whole thing is evolution, right? Continuous improvement, continuous growth. And what I realized is that the fallacy is actually mine. I am seeking something that is not coexistent with the idea of continuous growth. If you go into a relationship seeking an equal, seeking a partner, someone who can challenge you, then if your desire is to continuously grow, then the only kind of person that you can have with you in a long-term capacity is someone who also has the desire to continuously grow and improve. And I think most people do not have that desire. Most people aren't even aware that you can have that desire. And so the problem was actually me. I was like, there's 3 levels to this. There's people who want to be led, want a relationship to happen to them, not actually engage with it as an equal. They don't want to be a part of the process. And then there are people who do want that. And I thought that I was that. But now I'm realizing I don't think I do want that because in the exceedingly rare chance that I do find someone who does want to continuously improve, I just actually like, the more I think about it, the more I think that might not be a real thing. It might not be something that I can find. So what I'm left with is essentially meeting people who might be my equal and my match, but only for enough time for me to essentially surpass them. Because not that that's a given, but it's either I will surpass them or they will surpass me. And eventually at some point, one of us will be more evolved than the other because everyone's on different trajectories. And even when you're together in a relationship, doesn't mean that you stop with your capacity to evolve. And I think this is actually one of the biggest tragedies in, I don't know, the concept of marriage is that people put the marriage before themselves to the point where they've given up their individuality and also given up on their dreams, and their ability to become better is sacrificed for the longevity of a relationship. That feels kind of shitty. But so what I'm starting to realize is that I don't think I can be in an equal relationship. There's only 2 possibilities. Either I find someone who is a present match for me and then one of us evolves past the other, or I find someone who is not a match for me and I lead them. And it's kind of a bleak prospect, but also the more I think about it, the more it just feels right. It sort of, I think, puts a lot of what it means to date successfully in context and in sharp relief. The way that you get, it also just sort of explains why and how the way to get all of the attention that you want in a dating capacity is to be kind of selfish. And the reason is because you have to lead, you have to take initiative. And there's people who exclusively want that. And then there are other people who want to engage with you, and leading and taking the initiative represents a challenge to those people. And so they'll engage with that, and that will be lots of fun. And you will mutually grow and sharpen each other until eventually you can't anymore because one of you has evolved past the other. And I don't think it's a bug. I think it's a feature. It's actually a good thing. But it is a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of a, I don't want to say a lonely prospect because it's definitely not. And the better you get at understanding this stuff, the more the more you are actually less alone. Sorry, the less you are alone. But I think the more you are less likely to be surrounded by your equals. The more you grow, this is lonely at the top. But I don't think it's a bad thing that it's lonely at the top. It's kind of like when you get to the top, you start to realize that not being alone is not really a goal in itself in the first place. It's only a goal in itself if you are not at the top. And when you are at the top, being alone kind of is irrelevant. What matters is finding situations and people and stuff that can challenge you to become better, and it has very little to do with being alone. And also, by the time you get to the top, you're never actually alone. You're surrounded by people all the time. You have subordinates. Sometimes you have equals, but the more you get to the top, the less you have equals and the more you just have subordinates. But you're surrounded by people all the time. It's not actually about loneliness in actuality. It's more like loneliness in spirit. But I don't know. This is something I was thinking about.